KPI from the Bud Light Suite.
Sweet. 1067 KPI live from the Bud Light Suite. We got a crazy crowd of fools in here today. Let's talk about who wants tickets to Shine Down Breaking Benjamin and nothing more. Let me hear it. Where's he at? Where's he at? Just a show of hands. We have a few of them that we are going to give away in just a little bit. And Scoop, you feel like hitting the phones?
Sure, why not?
How about call number 10? We hook them up right now. Saints and Sinners ticket sold out show. Do your best, my friends. Do your best. 713-ROCK, roll or 631-2-WIN. We have our friends from DUI Defense Matters in as well. Holy crap, what a weekend, man. I got a feeling come Monday you guys are going to be busy. This is well, unfortunately, this is a dumb weekend for a lot of people. This is a weekend that they go into the weekend thinking, all right, it's going to be the greatest weekend of all. And then at some point in time, whether they're at a house party or a bar or some sort of celebration, they've had a few drinks. They think that they're fine. They get in a car, whoosh, they drive off, and they see the red and blue behind them, and it spirals downhill from there. A lot of DUI checkpoints, a ton of them this actual weekend. They begin tonight, you guys, go through tomorrow and Sunday. So if you, actually they started last night, just a bump in them, but I hear tonight and tomorrow night, huge night. I think there's something like 20-something% increase for this weekend's DUI checkpoints. So they're going to be out there. So, just for the ground game, give us the rules, give us the standard sort of guidelines to follow if that were to happen to us. First and foremost, don't drink and drive. Don't go on how you feel, correct?
That's number one, Willie B. Thanks so much. Will Smith here. Thanks so much for having us on board. Step one, exactly right. Don't drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe out there. If you do make a mistake, though, when you see those red and blues in your rearview mirror,
start crying.
Cry first, run. No, I'm joking. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Look at step one, be polite to the officer, period.
Yes.
Step two, if they believe that they're going to begin an investigation for DUI, remember, those roadside maneuvers are voluntary. What that means for you is you do not have to participate in them.
Now, would you recommend that they do participate in? Because that's the big question. A cop says, hey, you mind getting out doing some roadsides. What's the answer? What's the best answer for us?
No.
Yeah.
I have a back problem.
I do. Thank you. Okay, good to know. All right, and then what's the next thing that's going to happen?
So the next thing is if you refuse the roadsides, at that point you're probably going to be arrested. They'll take you down to a fire station, a police station, ask you to do a test.
But let's stop right there. In reality, you're going to be arrested anyway, right? Because no matter how many times, no matter if you've had 0 drinks or you've had 10 drinks, nobody passes the roadsides. Nobody does.
I think that by the point that they're asking you to do the roadsides, that the likelihood of you leaving that scene and going home is probably pretty low.
Okay. So next step.
So next step is if you've refused, they're going to put you in cuffs. They're going to take you to a police station, a fire station, somewhere to ask you. Well, if they're going to do a blood
It's
test.
Halloween. What if you already have
Right.
cuffs?
Well, there you go.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Zip
My
ties.
ankles, baby. My ankles. Do those.
And hopefully when you step out of the car, you're wearing pants.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these are some of the things we have to worry about on Halloween, right?
Yes,
It's a day unlike other days, right?
Amen.
Right, so they're going to ask you if you want to take a test, blood test or a breath test. If it's a blood test, they can take you to a hospital or to a fire station. If it's a breath test, they have to take you to a police station.
And which one would you rather our listeners go with?
Well, that's difficult. If they think that you're under the influence of drugs, then you have to do a blood test. Or, well, I guess they have to ask you to do a blood test. So clearly, if they think you're under the influence of marijuana, they can't ask you to do a breath test because it wouldn't do any good.
So if you're going as a marijuana plant and you have buds taped all over you and you just reek of skunk,
they will probably ask you to do a blood test as opposed to a breath
saying,
test.
No, I haven't been smoking anything. It's my outfit.
Right. So,
all right.
So you're going to have a choice to make at that point in time.
I was going to go that as up through the Saints and Sinners bar. I thought it'd be kind of cool to go as a big marijuana plant and let everybody take a bud. They wouldn't let me do that. I don't know why.
You have a lot of
so
friends,
tight.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, you're going to have a choice to make as to whether or not you're going to do the tests, right?
Okay.
And so
Consequences of
consequences, right?
Doing it or not doing it.
So consequences of not doing it is that if you refuse the test, then you're going to lose your license for 60 days. Okay.
60. That's it.
60 days. Well, so you're going to lose it for at least 60 days. You can get your license back with an ignition interlock. Now you're going to have the ignition interlock for 2 to 3 years, depending. But you're going to not be able to drive for 60 days. Now, the big thing is for those people out there that are listening that have a commercial driver's license, you refuse that test, you're going to lose your commercial driver's license for a year, straight up. No driving.
So they kind of got you cornered. You have to do it almost. Because who can survive without a license nowadays? And you said at least 60 days. That means it could be...
Well, it's up to you, right, how long it's going to take. So let me put it this way. You refuse it, you're going to lose your license for year, 2 years. It depends on how many prior DUIs you have. But after 60 days, you can get it back with an ignition interlock. So it just depends on how quickly you get your act together and if you can get it back within the 60 days.
Let me ask something for the room. Has anybody ever had an interlock on their car in here? Yeah,
Couple hands.
All right, I know it. I was working out the other day and I saw this cat with an ankle bracelet on, and I was just dying to be like, all right, man, what happened?
Yeah.
DUI, what? Wearing this ankle bracelet at the gym. I'm like, I'm not sure how you get by with it, but props to you for the workout.
Right.
All right, next.
Well, so that's kind of where we're at, is that you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to take the test.
Man.
And you're going to have consequences if you refuse it, but ultimately that makes the DA's job a little more difficult when they're trying to prove a DUI against you. So for those people that, maybe it's not a first DUI, maybe it's a second or more. So the stakes at that point are a little higher because there's going to be mandatory jail time. And so maybe at that point you think, I think I can do without the driver's license for a couple months, but I'm not going to give them any evidence to use against me.
Yeah, so that's the thing about attorneys, right? What they say, we have two hands, right? On the one hand this, on the other hand that, right? But at the end of the day, remember that if you have a marijuana DUI, if you refuse that test, you're absolutely going to have to deal with license consequences. You take a test, as to the DMV, doesn't matter how high your nanogram level is, doesn't matter how high the THC is in your body.
Such crap, bro.
There's no suspension.
They got to come up with a system that can determine whether or not you smoked it the night before or 5 minutes before you got in the damn car. They just have to. It's stupid.
Yeah, so what they test for right now is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, right? That's a mouthful, but the bottom line is that's what they call the active agent, the active intoxicant in marijuana, right? When you take a blood test, that's what they're searching for, that's what they're looking for. So you're going to get generally at least two results, right? Your carboxide, your COOH, and you're going to get that active number. So, there's a lot of folks.
Is that the 5 nanogram thing or whatever it is?
I'm glad you brought that up, Willie, because we got this new law in Colorado that indicates there's a rebuttable presumption that if you're over 5 nanograms per milliliter of whole blood within 2 hours of driving, you get to rebut it, but there's a presumption that you're DUI if you're over 5 nanograms.
So for people like, let's just call it how it is. Sweet Cheeks, for example, is a freight train. She would roll 5. She would literally pop. Hey, is Cheeks in there?
Nah, she's running downstairs to grab some more people.
I don't know if she'd like being called a freight train. Willie, we gotta be nice to Sweet Cheeks.
No, straight chin me, dog. She is. Hey, she would be over 5 nanograms. Hey, Cheeks, come here. Here, I'll let her put it and frame it up. Have a seat there, Hot Rod. Sweet Cheeks, do you believe you're over the 5 nanogram limit right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. How much over?
Oh, infinity amount.
Yes, dude. Hence the freight train, bro. Hence the freight train. All right. So for a person like Sweet Cheeks, who, she's got a medical condition, her glaucoma acts a fool. So she would be over the 5 nanogram limit constantly. So how do you test? How do you find out something like that for individuals like herself? She's fine right now to drive, but there's no doubt she's over the 5 nanogram limit.
I'm glad you brought that up. Jake and I work oftentimes with experts who deal in this area, right? Because this is not sound science in our opinion, all right? Sweet Cheeks might be what we call a chronic user, right? Sorry to use that word, right?
Chronic user.
Oh, I like that word.
Look, hold on. I can look around the room. I see about 3-4 chronic users.
So look, somebody's tolerance is different if they smoke marijuana all the time, right?
Yeah.
Jake, you remember we went to trial and we dealt with that issue, right?
Yeah, right, up in Boulder.
Yep. why don't you tell them a little bit about tolerant effect? I think the listeners probably want to know about that.
Yeah, right. Well, so the 5 nanograms, that's the problem with it, is that 5 nanograms means something different to Sweet Cheeks than it would to somebody that maybe it's their first time smoking
My mama.
in a while. So, because people do become used to the effects of the marijuana. So that's why chronic users, right, they're going to be a little bit more used to it, and it's not going to affect them near the same way.
All right, so but how did, on a court case, if you're over 5 nanograms, how do you is that what you guys defend? Say, hey, this person uses it all the time, they have this condition,
right?
But were they driving impaired? Is that not a question?
Right, and so in this particular case that we had, this guy was pulled over. He was speeding, not terrible, just speeding, right? And so they pulled him over.
He wasn't high. He may have had over 5 nanograms, but no dude high speeds.
Yeah, so pulled him over, and so what the rebuttable presumption that Will is mentioning, what that means is that basically you can fight back, right? You don't just have to. They don't just get to say, well, you're over 5 nanograms, you are guilty. So you get to fight back, and so you say, well, look, yeah, fine, he might have been speeding, but look, he got out of the car fine. He did these. He didn't do the test because he actually did have a physical problem. So you go through that, and then we hired a gentleman to come in and talk about the effects, and he talked about the specific numbers and said, listen, for somebody who uses consistently, it is very possible that this person was not under the influence. And so that's the way that you fight that.
Well, and look, our expert will say stuff even beyond that, right? Within a degree of scientific reliability, it can't be said this person was impaired, right? We have a number of experts who work with. Actually, one guy will put people behind a driver simulator, right? He'll test them both high and not high. Point is, this is a pretty interesting area.
Yeah.
You imagine driving a simulator all high. Yeah. What up? I'm hanging it out, bro. Hanging it out.
No, I can't imagine that. You're right, hanging out with a bunch of doctors and scientists in a driving simulator while you're high. I don't know.
That's okay.
That's what he does.
I'll hang out with anybody while I'm
As
high.
long as you're high.
All right, man. So, look, we got to take a quick break. We'll come back. Thank you guys for coming in and telling us a little bit about it. And we'll get some other. It being Halloween, I imagine some people's costumes may land them in a little bit of trouble this particular weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Take a quick break. I got tickets to give away to our sold-out Saints and Sinners Ball, which I believe you guys have a couple photo booths up there and let people take pictures and all their look, I'm telling them something they don't even know. You guys have photo booths, believe it or not, at our concert that you guys are sponsoring, and people can take pictures of the costumes and each other and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. On Saturday, tomorrow.
There's DUI Defense Matters photo booth. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Two?
Yeah.
All right.
He's like, I'm in it all night.
Yeah. Take a picture of this. Whoa. All right, look, we got to take a quick break. Back in a minute with Shinedown and tickets to our big Saints and Sinners Ball. It's going to be awesome. We can get you there. Hang on, BPI.
Live BPI from the Bud Light Suite.
All right, 106.7 KPI live from the Bud Light Suite. We already got some people hooked up. Hey, come here. This girl was so nervous. Apparently, is it your birthday? How old are you today? Get real close to this microphone. How old are you today?
18.
18? How excited are you that you're going to spend Halloween at the Saints and Sinners Ball?
I'm psyched.
Well, good. We're glad that you can come, and we just want to tell you happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, our friends from DUI Defense Matters are in. And look, they got to set you straight because this is a bad weekend for drinking and driving. If, look, how can you, if it happens, there's a point, we were talking off the air, like what's the drunkest you ever seen somebody? And I got to tell you, there were some disgusting stories just thrown around in the Bud Light Suite. Chase had the trump card with, was it a guy or a girl? A guy that was sitting on the toilet and he threw up in his underwear. Now, you take as much of that as you want and throw it into a visual, but that's a bad day. That's an awful, awful, awful day. And you have cases, I'm sure, where people straight go idiot. In the common sense thing, just don't drink and drive. But there are times that you ever tell people when they call, they're just like, hey, man, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, there are cases certainly that are harder than others, right? I mean, you got to have some frank conversations with people sometimes. More often, sometimes that occurs after we have gotten the video from the police car and determined that things maybe didn't happen exactly as the person recalled that they may have happened.
What's the worst one?
Jake, are you saying that they don't always remember what happened?
Sometimes recollections are a little hazy, yeah.
So have you ever seen videotape from the police car of an incident that was described completely different to you guys as the lawyer from your client, and then saw the video and was like, can I get a recess? Can I get a yeah.
Look, dash cams can be the best, right? If your client's falsely accused, it's the only objective evidence. We love it. However, sometimes it's the most
devastating
problematic evidence we can have.
Yeah, you urinated on the trunk of the cop car.
Yeah.
Well, the dash cam where the guy like falls down on his face doing the roadsides, right? I mean, everyone's seen those. Look, the bottom line here is like you say, Willie, don't drink and drive, right? Don't smoke marijuana and drive. If you make a mistake, though, some mistakes are worse than others. Jake's got some pretty bad video evidence, as I recall.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I mean, you'll hear one version of events, and then the video comes out, and you're like, oh my God, this is not exactly as it was described.
Yeah, but there's no better people at sort of looking out for you guys in a particular situation than you guys. This is your home run. This is what you specialize in.
Right.
This is what you work 24/7 at. This is what
day in and day out.
Yeah, man. Especially when it comes to, I'm curious as the increase in. It's weird to me that they call it a DUI, but driving under the influence of marijuana, that's got to be through the roof, although that assessment by the officer, to me, is still so vague and so, it's left up to sort of that person's interpretation of how you're acting, how you look, and so forth. It's got to be kind of a weird sort of thing in court because some of the guidelines really aren't there yet.
Oh, Willie, you're exactly right, man. We have these guidelines that they're trained on, right? NHTSA, the National Traffic Highway Safety Administration, gives us guidelines, right? And what are those, right? Well, they are you got dilated pupils, right? If you're under the influence of marijuana, that's one of the indicators. Or guess what? Or not, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you do or don't have dilated pupils, they're going to say, well, the fact that you don't have dilated pupils, we don't know. I mean, so look at there are officers and troopers who are specially trained to detect the influence of drugs, in particular marijuana, right? They exist. But most of the time, they're not on the case, right? They're not using, a pupil measurer called a pupilometer. Let's say that 3 times
They really
fast.
have that?
They
A
do.
pupilometer by your eye?
That's right. Measure your
really?
pupils.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we got a couple.
creepy.
Yeah, we got a couple at our office. They're kind of weird looking.
You better back up with that light eyeball thing, bro.
Are you pointing the pupilometer at me?
That's interesting. All right. So, what do they when they hold your eye open and pry it, or what? I'm kind of curious.
It's not like a scary movie. They don't have like a
the
forceps or-
drill.
Yeah. No, what they're supposed to do is look in a place where there's no other light contamination, right? What that means for us, and look, here's the stuff we're looking at, is, okay, are they doing these tests while there's red and blues flashing in your eyes? Do they have a spotlight right at you, right? Obviously, a bunch of light is going to change your pupil, right? So there's ways of doing it, there's ways of not doing it. Our job is to make sure that we hold the law enforcement accountable. What they're supposed to do is find probable cause, right? If they don't have enough, they don't have the ability to ask you to take a test, right? Look, if you're on the side of the road, though, be polite to law enforcement, right? They have a lot of discretion in these kind of cases.
Sure.
And politely decline those roadside maneuvers. But when we say roadsides, what are we talking about, right? There's these little PBTs, portable breath tests, right? You have the right to decline that. However, if you're asked to do a blood or a breath test, that's not the same. There are consequences for refusing to take those tests.
Okay, it's always good to know. It is in the world that sort of, especially here in Colorado, you would think that do you have a number on how and what that is? The penalties the same driving under the influence of marijuana? Is it easier to defend in court? Is it harder, more difficult to sort of rally in court? And do they hit you with the same penalties, like you lose your license for a year and all that stuff for driving under the influence of marijuana?
Well, so for a criminal conviction, the penalties are going to be the same as for alcohol. Okay. There's differences for the DMV. So as Will was describing earlier in the show, if you take a blood test and regardless of whatever, and it's just marijuana, regardless of what the number is, you're not going to lose your license through the DMV. Okay. Now, later on in the case, if you're convicted of a DUI, you can still lose your license. If you're convicted of a DWAI as opposed to a DUI, then there's just going to be points assessed against your license, and you may come out of it okay. So the DUI of marijuana, it's a little easier to save your license. Either way, if you refuse a blood or a breath test, you're going to lose it for a year.
A year.
A year.
Not
Now,
60 days.
Well, okay, so you lose it for a year, but then you can do what's called early reinstatement, which is where you wait the 60 days, and then you can go in and get your license back with the ignition interlock.
And you have to do that on a marijuana? If you're convicted of marijuana, DUI or whatever that would be called, can you go get back and get it in 60 days, and you have to have the interlock if you were convicted for a marijuana charge?
So right now we're talking refusal. Right now,
Right.
okay, so if you refuse a blood or a breath test, whether they think you're under the influence of alcohol or marijuana, you're going to lose it for at least a year. Depends on how many priors you've had. But regardless, you're going to be able to go in after 60 days, and you're going to be eligible to get your license back with the ignition interlock, which is the device you have to blow into. Okay, that you can do after 60 days. So that's what we're talking about with the refusal.
Dude, I had a story a couple of weeks ago in Stupid Stories where a guy trapped a raccoon and forced the raccoon to do the blow in the interlocking. I know, I didn't know how it's possible either. But
Willie B, I'm going to call shenanigans because a lot of these interlock devices take pictures of your face.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
I'm
would
just
love,
saying,
I would love
Scoop.
to be on the interlock device camera when
With
you
the
get the
raccoon blowing
raccoon
into it?
blowing into the interlock device.
Hey, Scoop, am I lying?
Nope, we had that story.
We did have that story. A dude caught a raccoon, and I don't know how the hell he got the raccoon to work in the breathalyzer, but somehow he got the interlocking to start his car.
And he threw it in the back seat in case he needed to restart it
yeah,
again.
he threw the raccoon in the back seat, and that's when it attacked his ass.
In case the interlock
In case
device
he needed it again.
Sure.
Hey, man, that's intuition right there, bro.
I think this is your public service announcement.
Yeah,
Do not carry a live raccoon in your back seat driving down the road. Right?
Domesticated raccoon, fine. All right, look, we got more tickets to give away. How about call number 10, 713-ROCK, roller 631-2N. It's a sold-out show. You want to be there, and you want to be part of the meet and greet. So, Scoop, you take call number 10. We'll take a quick break, and I'll give somebody in the Bud Light Suite the same opportunity. Hang on, guys. DUI 167 KPI. We are in the Bud Light Suite with our friends from DUI Defense Matters. Man, you guys have, I'm telling you, you guys have saved a bunch of the BPIers. Here's their phone number, 720-542-6148. Online, website?
Yeah, it's DUIDefenseMatters.com.
Simple, easy. And we were talking off the air about the worst case scenarios, like what's the highest you've ever seen somebody blow on a breathalyzer? And it's in the 5s. Is it like in the 2s or something? You're supposed to be like passed out or unconscious?
Yeah, generally for the regular person, yeah, about 0.25-ish, you're going to start to shut down. You know, if you're in 0.4, 0.5, I mean, you're pretty much you're going at it hard every day.
Yeah, you're a professional. Like that's that's sweet cheek stamina.
No, that's worse than that, my man. I mean, the reality is, I mean, you know, you get a lot of this stuff's pretty fun, but you know, when you get up that high, you're obvious.
Yeah, you got a
obviously
problem.
You have a problem. I mean, we see people who, you know, their bodies are kind of shutting down. The whites of their eyes aren't white; they're yellow, right? I mean, so those are that's pretty high, and we see it from time to time. At the end of the day, though,
at that point, maybe some jail time might do them good.
A little time to dry up.
Drink. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our role is to make sure that we minimize the impacts on our clients' lives. So that's our role every day of the week. And part of that is to make sure that we give them this, you know, give them resources they need to try to help out. What's really the root of those kind of problems?
Hey,
right?
what's the worst sort of defense that you've ever heard from one of your people? Meaning, like, all right, so I thought there's got to be some funny stories. Imagine cops hear it all. No, I wasn't doing this. I was blank, blank, blank. It's got to be ridiculous.
Well, Willie B, I tell you, you know, we would always run great defenses, right? But before we became defense attorneys, both Jake and I were prosecutors, right? So we know how it works, and we've also seen how it works, right?
Sure.
Worst I ever saw by far was a trial where guy, his defense boils down to, officer, I wasn't drinking. I was you're mistaken. I wasn't pouring the alcohol into my mouth. I was pouring it into my ear. I was just trying to treat my ear infection. Don't worry about it.
Pouring alcohol into his ear.
It was unsuccessful.
Like when the cop came up, was he just like just pouring beer down the side of his face?
Yeah, exactly right. Officer, you're mistaken. I wasn't pouring that in my mouth. It was my ear.
My mama told me about this old time remedy.
It's a folk healing kind of thing, not a DUI.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But hey, sound advice. Pour it in your ear. Not so much. All right. Well, that's all pretty interesting stuff. But the real sort of rule or outline we like to give you is first and foremost, don't drink and drive.
That's right.
As funny as it is, because we can sit back and laugh at some people because it is to the point when they get so bad that they're pouring it in their ear or they're, running from the cops. And I just told a funny story about one of my friends in here. Sometimes you just got to shake your head, put your head in your hands and go, dude, you're an idiot. Sometimes you just go to idiot status. So, look, before you go to idiot status, before you find yourself in that situation, by all means, call somebody for help, a friend, family, or whatever. If you find yourself in trouble, definitely call DUI Defense Matters. We've had a number of BPIers kind of get saved by you guys, so thank you for that. It's not always their particular fault. Sometimes cops are just, they pull you over for not the best of reasons and not the best of intentions.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're going to be looking for anything, particularly on weekends like this weekend, right? If you're coming home from a party, it's midnight, you make a bad turn, maybe you don't pull directly into the first lane, they're going to pull you over. And it's things that they wouldn't pull you over for if it was in the middle of the day at noon. They're not going to pull you over, but the fact of the matter is, at night on a weekend like this, you do something like that, they're pulling you over.
I've been pulled over before because the cop says I was swerving in my lane. Now, you have your entire lane to use. And consider, I wasn't crossing the line, never was on the line on either side. He just said, quote, and this is more reason why a cop can pull you over for anything. They'll give you the biggest line of BS. He goes, it looked like you were having a hard time staying in your lane. And I was like, really? And fortunate for me, hadn't had a single thing to drink. And I knew I was driving fine. I was 100% fine. So it was like, really, I was having a problem staying in my lane like this. And I knew for a fact the cop was behind me. So what do you do when a cop's behind you? You drive, noon and 3, seatbelts on, straight as a freaking arrow. And that's exactly what I was doing. He still pulled the lights on me. And after an obvious 5-minute conversation, he could tell that I wasn't in any shape, form, or fashion impaired. I did that was one of the times where I did his little test at the roadside, but I got out, talked to him, and he could tell I wasn't, or didn't have any alcohol on my breath, or wasn't watery eyes, glossy eyes. And they could pull you over for anything. And it's one of those things where I told him that. I'm like, I got no problem staying in my lane. Haven't had a single thing to drink. This is what I've been doing.
Willie, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's a big part of what we do is try to protect people's rights and protect people's rights by not letting the law enforcement pull you over for any daggum reason, right? What I tell people is, look, if law enforcement can't find some legitimate reason to pull you over, they're not that smart.
Yeah,
right?
they don't get that contact with you. If it's not a legitimate reason to pull you over, if you're not driving impaired, then hey, man, they can't pull you over. Suck it.
The reality is we do have a Constitution here in the United States, right?
Damn right.
And
they got to follow it, too.
A big part of the U.S. Constitution is to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. And what that means for us is you can't just pull somebody over because they look funny. You can't pull them over because they got a fast car. A lot of your listeners have fast cars,
Damn right.
So, look it. No matter what an officer says, we have some good things coming up. There's some good things in that we have to work with now. That's dash cams, right?
Yes.
Dash cams are oftentimes, we talked about that a little earlier, those are oftentimes powerful evidence. I can tell you right now, I had a case in a jurisdiction I won't mention where they pulled over my client. My client tells me, look, Will, I didn't do any of this stuff, right? I wasn't swerving, right? And you know where I got the dash cam back? You know what was not there? Swerving. You know what?
Yeah.
You know what happened in that case?
Right.
Dismissed, right? Because it was an improper stop. We had no probable cause, bad stop, case dismissed.
And I will tell you that has been a great tool for us on this side of the coin, because in a court of law, the judge always sides with the police officer. If it's your story versus his story, the judge always sides with the police officer. And look, I will tell you, there are some great police officers.
That's
but
right.
There are
That's
also
right.
some police officers that take their power and use it to their advantage and want to play, Godzilla out there on the streets and just be like, their rule is it, and nobody's going to deviate from it, and what they say is the word and the gospel, and you can't defend yourself, when in reality you did nothing whatsoever wrong, and you should have been contacted from them in the first place. So I'm glad those things are here. It has helped tremendously sort of get rid of some of that sort of abuse of power, if you will, that for a number of years we'd show up in court and it was our word versus theirs, and we always lost. So I'm glad they have more of those. I wish every cop wore a chest cam, there was a dash cam, and a lot of these things would be settled.
It's better for everybody, right? I mean, law enforcement has a tough job. We respect what they do. It's important that when you come in contact with law enforcement, you show them respect and you're polite to them because they have a tough job. That said, not every officer does their job appropriately, and it's our job to point that out when they mess up.
Hell yeah, and I appreciate y'all doing your job because they need to be pointed out. All right, look, man, we got to wrap things up in the Bud Light. Sweet! We got another pair of tickets to give away on the air, correct, Scoop?
Depends. How many have you given away in the suite?
I had 3 in the suite, right?
You have have you given away 3?
No.
Okay. We have 6 total, and I've given away 2 on the air. So if we got one more for the air.
I got one more for the suite. Let's
Okay.
make it happen. Call number 10, meet and greet passes. They are yours. We'll hook somebody up in here as well. Let's call that a wraps. Come tomorrow, all painted up, all dressed up, costumed up, amped up. Make sure you stop by the DUI Defense Matters photo booth. They're sponsoring the whole damn show. They'll be out there, and it wasn't for partnerships like this, we wouldn't be able to do cool stuff like this. Snap a picture, post it up. Again, their phone number, 720-542-6148. DUI Defense Matters have been a huge help for a number of BPI family members. You'll see them tomorrow in force up at the show. Snap a couple photos, man. They're going to be fun. My ass will be in there as well. Literally, my ass. It's getting the photos. All right, anyway. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Have a great afternoon. Thank you guys for coming in. Will, Jake,
Thanks, Willie.
appreciate it, man. DUI Defense Matters. Let's call it done from the Bud Light Suite. BPI.
BPI. The BPI family. Computers, iPhone repair, virus and spyware, and more. Got a business? Join the BPI family.
Brought to you by DUI Defense Matters.
Details at kbpi.com.